So today, the title of my message is A Preamble to Happiness. Okay, let me repeat, a preamble to happiness. And I'll explain to you in a while what this word means, but I want to first start with a passage in our Bible called the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, it's a pretty famous passage, in case you don't know. Okay, and so if you have your Bible with you, okay, will you open it up, turn with me today, because it's actually, going to be very helpful to open your Bible, your physical Bible, to this page, all right? So this is the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, and it's a section called the Beatitudes. Okay, and it goes like this, Matthew chapter 5, verse 1 to 12, the Beatitudes. Now Jesus saw the crowds. He went up a mountain. He sat down, and his disciples came to him. He taught them, saying, "Happy are people who are hopeless, because the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Happy are people who grieve, because they will be made glad. Happy are people who are humble, because they will inherit the earth. Happy are people who are hungry and thirsty for righteousness, because they will be fed until they are full. Happy are people who show mercy, because they will receive mercy. Happy are people who have pure hearts, because they will see God. Happy are people who make peace, because they will be called God's children. Happy are people whose lives are harassed, because they are righteous, because the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Happy are you when people insult and harass you because you speak all kinds of bad or false things about you because of Jesus, because of how he teaches you to live. Be full of joy and be glad, because you have a great reward in heaven." Okay? So what I just read is the introduction section of the Sermon on the Mount, and it is known as the Beatitudes. Now, some people call it a prologue, some say it's a preface. Now, I will argue it is something called a preamble. A preamble to what Jesus is about to teach about a well-lived life. Okay, now wait, what is a preamble? I'm glad you asked, listen. A preamble is a preparatory statement, an introduction, most often used in the context nowadays of law. Okay, as part of an official document, statute, or deed. So what is a preamble? It is a statement that explains the purpose, background, the underlying philosophy of a document, for example, a nation's constitution. And it sets the stage for all the stuff that is about to follow. It serves as an official preface outlining principles and values that are meant to lead us to a particular outcome. So in our case, the preamble is Jesus telling us the attitude and patterns of thinking, of living that produce a happier, more blessed life. Okay, because actually this word, right, the Beatitudes, it was actually a term that was named so by our Roman Catholic siblings. It comes from the Latin word beatitudo, which means blessedness. Okay, because the original Greek word in the Bible actually means deeply, supremely happy, blessed. Okay, so God, listen, does care that human beings are blessed and happy as we go through life. He wants that for each of us. Except what Jesus defines as happy here in these verses, as well as in the rest of the Sermon on the Mount to follow, it's actually radically different from what we generally think happiness is all about. You see, in this Sermon on the Mount, Jesus doesn't talk about things or achievements as being blessed. He doesn't even mention the hope that maybe one day life will be easy and free of difficulty. Instead, he starts in the Beatitudes talking about how suffering always comes alongside being happy. Right? And then after this preamble, he goes on to teach for the next 3 chapters about love and a higher way of living. For example, being salt and light to the world around us. Holding ourselves to a higher standard than even what religion at that point of time was holding them to. How to deal with struggles like anger and lust and unfairness in life. How to be more equitable, how to be people that keep our word to each other. How to be someone that doesn't take revenge, that loves your enemies, that gives to the poor. He also teaches about prayer and fasting, about how we handle money, how we handle worry and judging other people. Over and over, after this preamble, Jesus raises the bar of what it means to love and be blessed and be a happy human being. And he concludes this passage, so if you've got your Bible open, right, and you go there, he concludes it with saying, if you listen and follow what I just taught you, you will be like a person who builds a house on solid foundations. No matter what difficulties or challenges life throws at you, you will not collapse, you will be resilient and eternal, you will stay strong. So that is Jesus' definition of a happy and blessed life. Okay, so preamble, right? Preamble, happy. End of the sermon, a strong and solid life, an unbreakable, unshakable life. And everything in the middle, how to live happy and supremely blessed. Nothing to do with wealth and possessions. Nothing to do with fame and recognition. Everything to do with intangible goodness, finding meaning and purpose, inner peace and acceptance, kindness and tolerance towards and inclusion towards other people, service towards other people. Yes? So I feel sorry for some of you today because you came here thinking, I'm going to learn how to be successful and set goals for 2026. No, you're here how to learn how to be happier. To make everything that you will one day achieve mean something in your life. Okay, so what do I have to give you today? Well, let's start by getting our basics right. Is that okay? Firstly, listen, happiness is a direction, not a destination. Okay, in reality, happiness is not some ultimate state or final destination that any of us can ever arrive at. And Jesus says so much in this preamble, right? It says that he taught them saying, happy are people who are hopeless. Happy are those who are grieving. There will be hunger and humility and sometimes humiliation in your journey to your dreams. There will be challenges, struggles, actual feelings of negativity and distress. You will experience it. Okay? All of it, even as you work to try to be happier in life. So listen to me, 100% joy, pure maximum level peace or wholeness, or finding a point in life where things are easy and your finances are awesome. Whatever you have imagined the destination of happiness is, listen, it is not a destination or state you will ever arrive at or attain here on this earth. You will never arrive at utopia or nirvana. Not in this earthly lifetime anyway. So listen, if you've been trying to chase that, you will chase it forever. Okay? If you misdefine the meaning of happiness, you are going to be going in circles and face a lot of disappointment. Because that is what the latest studies are proving and showing. That happiness is not a state of being. It is not a destination. It is a direction. It is a series of continuous actions that lead to you feeling better. So your job as a human being is not to achieve happiness. Your job is to do what you can and to keep doing what it takes to be happier. So the best that you can get to, and this is what they say now, right? The best you can get to is not happy, it is sort of like happy nearness. Following me? You see, one of the causes of anxiety and depression among those of us living in modern cities, especially those of us under 35 today, is the problem of not having a good definition of happiness and subscribing to what many researchers call the arrival fallacy, which is, we say this a lot, right? Especially in Singapore, I love making progress. And once I get to my goal, yes, I will find ultimate bliss. Okay? It's sort of like the earthly version of the spiritual concept of heaven, right? It's why so many entrepreneurs, high achievers, and even people like Olympic gold medalists are documented to fall into depression after their wins. Right? For example, for Olympic, medalists, they control their diet. They step on a scale every day to see their progress, to get motivated. And they feel good because they are stepping towards their ultimate goal, which is to win. And then when they reach it, what happens? Congrats. In order to stay here up on the podium next year, you will never get to eat anything that you want for the rest of your life. Right? You know, that is why, right, speaking of New Year's resolutions, right, the reason why 1/3 of people who manage to hit their dieting goals will then go on to keep dieting and they found to develop an eating disorder. And then the other half of us will just balloon back to our previous weight. Are you following? You know, do you know, right, that Buzz Aldrin, the man who was the pilot of Apollo 11, the second man to ever walk on the moon after Neil Armstrong, do you know when he returned from that historic mission and was asked by reporters what he was feeling, he replied, "We don't know what we were feeling. Walking on the moon is just what we needed to do. That was our focus, not what comes after." You know, he's documented and well known to have gone through a huge battle with clinical depression straight after he became a raging alcoholic after the moon landing. Right? And he would say, now he goes on helping people, he said, civilian life felt meaningless compared to exploring outer space. Now think about it, right? What could be more amazing than being one of the very rare people in all of human history, not just your generation, right? The second man to ever walk on the moon. To have been the pilot who got the entire team there. Right? But what they found was Buzz Aldrin was a man who was so addicted to the high of getting the dopamine hit in his brain, the high of chasing achievements, that he literally couldn't stop to enjoy the moment. Right? After that mission, he collapsed into alcohol. You know, he got into so many bad relationships, quickly married and divorced twice, and eventually things got so bad, he even got hospitalized in a psychiatric unit. You know, that doesn't sound like a pilot who has to endure high stress to own his job. That doesn't sound like a disciplined man who had to work so hard to get where he is and keep himself in tip-top physical condition. He collapsed under all that. But that happens. Because listen, you need to understand that human beings, we all have an inbuilt desire for moral and spiritual progress. We are wired metaphysically for this. And even if you're someone that doesn't believe in faith or spirituality yet, then listen, social scientists and neuroscientists have found that we are wired in our body and brain for this pursuit. For some sort of meaningful progress in life. We are wired for purposeful life. We are wired actually for higher order living. We are wired for progress. Now, the problem is if we define progress incorrectly, then once we reach our goals, it will feel like emptiness and straw in our mouths. Empty and disappointing. Because listen, being happier actually comes from learning how to regulate the moods we feel in our brain. Now, I can't, again, cover everything in one sermon, so go back and listen to some of the previous sermons, especially Mechanics of Joy, okay? Because in there, I talk about how happiness doesn't come from the absence of negative emotions. In fact, they found that positive emotions that you feel are independent of your negative emotions. So that means it is fully possible to feel happy even while you're feeling sad. It is possible to be joyful even when you're going through suffering. You can actually increase and decrease both positive and negative emotions at the same time. It is not a seesaw. They are not competing elements. Okay? But let me today introduce you to a new term, what scientists call affect. Now, affect refers to our mood levels. Okay? So understand this, right? Happiness doesn't come from the absence of negative emotions. It comes from our affect, our mood levels. Okay? So you and I actually can only be happier in life if we learn how to moderate our mood. You see, listen, right? The human brain, in essence, right, it is very basic level, only has 4 negative emotions. Fear, anger, disgust, and sadness. And you can watch these guys on Inside Out. Okay? They are the emotions that keep you alive. They are there to protect you, to help you to survive. They are what we call avoid emotions. Okay? So they are the things that help you to run from the tiger, to help you avoid the lion, to stop you from doing something that could get you killed, right? They were embedded into the most ancient parts of our brain when we were cavemen thousands of years ago. Okay? Now, you have 4 of them. But compared to negative emotions, your human brain only has 3 positive emotions. Joy, interest, and positive surprise. Okay? So, positive emotions are what we call approach emotions. They are emotions that motivate you. The thing that causes you to go hunt down prey so that you can eat more calories. They are why you search food blogs to find out what to eat that week. Are you hearing me? Because the better tasting something is, the more calories that you can get, the more fun you can achieve, the more feeling of reward and elevated mood you feel. Okay? So these emotions, the 3 of them, they are the most responsive to a chemical in your brain called dopamine. Anyone never heard this word before? If you're living on social media, you should have heard this word before. Okay? So the way your ancient brain is built is that your positive emotions are sensitive, actually, and respond very quickly to things like money, to pleasure, to power, to fame. And you can break that into a lot of different other things, a lot of different categories, okay? But what happens is when you get these things, they give you shots of dopamine in your brain that keep you motivated. They will elevate your mood. But then it will also very quickly bring you back down to your natural mood baseline. We have a baseline, okay? And because you come down from the elevated state, you will mistakenly think you need more. Which is why you keep trying to make more money. You keep trying to go on holidays. You keep cafe hopping even though it drains your wallet. It's why some senior bosses and politicians are on power trips. You know, it's why you keep posting on Instagram and checking for the likes. Because dopamine keeps you motivated. But if you are not careful, it can make you addicted to feeling good temporarily, only to crash into increasing anxiety. And that is the wrong formula for lasting satisfaction and a happier life. So understand this, right? What they found in research is all these things, money, fame, recognition, they are good intermediaries, but they are terrible endpoints. So you need to realize that to be happier, you actually need to want less of these things, to need less of these things, to desire less of these things, and substitute it with more transcendental things like meaningful work and purpose. Are you here with me? So we need these things. It keeps us going in life. They are little motivators, but if you are addicted to it, listen, it will rob you of lasting satisfaction. Basically, you're more of an addict than a happy person. Are you here with me? In fact, the same look of addiction, can I tell you? So this thing, right, that people feel, you know, if you were to scan an addict's brain and see the activity in there, the same activity that you will see being addicted to drugs is the same activity you will see addicted to alcohol, it's the same activity you will see addicted to workaholism, same activity you will see addicted to social media. Are you following me? Okay? So we need to substitute it with better stuff. At the same time, remember, so that's what you need to do with the positive mood levels, are you hear me? But at the same time, remember I told you in the last message, your caveman brain also has more tissue dedicated to negativity than to positivity. Right? Because long ago, it was more important to run from a tiger than to hunt down a chicken. This means, for most of us here, besides moderating our addiction to temporary superficial pleasures, the key to being happier is also learning how to moderate our negative mood. So the key to being happier, to moderating our affect, is actually not how to be more happy. In fact, how to need happiness less. Okay? That's one aspect. And the other aspect is how to be less unhappy. We need to figure out how to be less unhappy if we want to be happier. So what they found is what Jesus was teaching 2,000 years ago. Already, you can't feel happy by chasing superficial stuff. You can't feel happier by avoiding difficult stuff. You can only feel happier if you moderate both your positive and negative moods. All right, so then what can we do about it, right? Well, let's start with this, okay? You need to identify your affect profile. Identify your affect profile. Okay, now later we'll send you a PDF of the Happyness test. Okay, the Happyness test stands for positive and negative affect schedule. Okay, now you can do this test in 2 ways. It's very quick. It's just got 20 questions. Okay, but you should do it 2 times 2 ways. Okay, first to assess how you've been feeling lately, and this can be how you've been feeling the last week, how you've been feeling the past 3 weeks, 3 months. Okay, up to you. Okay. Now, the second is to do the questionnaire assessing how you naturally feel most of the time in life. Okay, your tendency. Is that okay? Because this one, there are 4 general combinations of an affect profile. Okay, the first is what some scientists nickname the mad scientist profile. Okay, these are people with above average positive feelings, above average negative moods, okay? Generally, all right? So they're always high, okay? They're usually super intense people. They are prone to mood swings, okay? They can be very exciting and innovative to be around, but they also tend to exhaust themselves and exhaust the people around them if they are not careful, okay? The second profile is the low intensity positive, low intensity negative, okay? These are the judges, the engineers, the cool as a cucumber, the hibernating bear personalities, okay? In fact, sometimes people look at them and assume deep down inside they don't care, okay? Because there's never any feeling or emotion on their face. It's never expressed, okay? The second kind is the intensely positive but weak negative. These are the cheerleaders, okay? These people are documented to usually have generally the highest feelings of positive mood most of the time, of well-being, okay? These are people that hate bad news. They avoid hard things and they avoid conversations. So they may feel good, but eventually it also leads to a crash if they don't moderate it properly. Okay, and the last one is the poet. High negative, low positive. These are the romantics, the people who feel the most, the people who think and ruminate too much. They tend to be very creative people. Okay? So all of us here will move in between and around with these 4 combinations. But every one of us has one particular tendency. So the plan for you being happier is very simple. If you score below average positive, then your target is to raise it. But raise it with the right stuff, not the dopamine stuff. If you have above average negativity, your goal is to reduce your negativity. Learn to manage your mind. Manage what you are doing that's contributing to elevating your negativity. Okay? So we all need to know our tendencies in order to change our habits. So here's some of the facts, right? 50% of your natural affect is actually genetic. Okay? And we know this from multiple studies of identical twins. Okay? Twins can grow up in the same environment, have access to the same opportunities, even have access to the same loving parents, share some overlapping genetic DNA traits, and yet 2 people can come out vastly different. Why? Because personality and happiness have a large genetic component. So researchers, for example, right, estimate the big 5, which is actually, we got MBTI and all the stuff that we use. They're very helpful. But as far as science is concerned, when it talks about personality, it only talks about the big 5. Okay, which is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. Okay, and they found the big 5 that contributes to our personality makeup is 40 to 80% genetic. Okay, but here's the thing. Listen to me, right? 50% of alcoholism is genetic. But you can turn the 50% to 0 by simply not drinking. Especially if you choose to, from a young age, let's say you grow up in a family with alcoholics and you know you will have that tendency. If you just refuse to ever drink or touch alcohol all the way until you are in your 30s, mid-30s, longer the better, you actually rewire the genetics in your brain to override this tendency. Are you following? Yes. So the same thing is with your affect, with your levels of happiness and unhappiness. Yes. So research estimates that, like alcoholism, it is 50% genetic. But you can reduce your unhappiness by not feeding it, by not reinforcing it, by learning how to moderate it. You can figure out habits that will work for you. See, the greatest gift you can give yourself and the people around you in 2026 is to work on your affect, to work on your happiness levels. Okay, next point. Ready? Yes. Number 2, happiness cannot be separated from suffering. Yes. I gotta say this over and over again until you get it, okay? So back to Jesus. Nothing he says about being happy can be separated from suffering. Yeah. In fact, everything in the Beatitudes is about suffering. Yes. I mean, just look at it, right? Hopeless, grieving, humble, hungry and thirsty, harassed, insult you, speak all kinds of bad about you. Everything is negative. Yes. Okay? And yet, at the end of it, in verse 12, he says, be full of joy and glad. Listen, our dominant idea of happiness today largely comes from white America. Right? In fact, the term, the pursuit of happiness, comes from them. It comes from their preamble in the American Constitution. Right? And today, even our version, our dominant forms of Christianity is actually more white and American than it actually is Jesus. Yeah. Now, some of that is okay. There's a part of Jesus that he is who he is, right? But he will be who he needs to be in whatever context and whoever he's speaking to, right? Yeah. I'm sure you're finding that as you read the Bible, God shows up at people's level. And then he brings us to the next level. Yeah. So the Americans brought us faith and prosperity theology, believing in yourself, positive thinking, achieving more, breaking free of poverty, pursuing human rights and joy, correct? Yeah. And those are good things. Yeah. But like any contextual version of the gospel, it is not meant to be the only way. It is meant to be just one aspect of a way. You see, today's version of Christianity taught in many places is not so much in line with Jesus' original intentions. Now, understand this, right? Our Bible was actually a lot more Eastern in its origin than Western in its perspective. You see, in the West, a lot of things, Western modern thinking, are dichotomies. Yes or no, right or wrong, light or dark. As we get to the New Testament, we start to veer into modern ideologies because Paul was influenced by Greek modern thought, which was the starting point of Western thinking. Okay, where they started to segregate the heart is different from the mind, is different from the soul, is different from the body. But right from the get-go, in Hebrew understanding of the world, the human being was a whole person. You cannot separate the heart from the soul, from your spirituality, from your body. Everything is working together and interspersed together, intersecting together, okay? So Western ideas are way more dichotomizing, right? Either or, right or wrong, better or best, right? But Eastern philosophy is all about duality and coexistence in its original essence, right? The whole idea is you have to look into darkness in order to find the light, versus the light needs to defeat the darkness completely. You see, when you go to seminary, that's what you will learn about Hebrew philosophy and the Old Testament. There's actually a lot more Asian than it is Western. That's why you'll see throughout the Bible, praise and lament come together. One moment, the Hebrew people are praising God, and the next paragraph, they are lamenting the difficulties of life. Joy and suffering are in constant tension and coexistence. So, human beings, right, I think we figured out by now, right, should have by now, that we need more than stuff to feel happy. We need meaning. But listen, the fastest way for you to miss your meaning in life is to avoid suffering. You know, if you need to go to therapy, please go to therapy. I'm going to therapy regularly myself. But you need to understand that you can buy all the self-help books, follow all the influencers on Instagram, go to a lot of expensive therapists to try to increase your happiness and increase your meaning of life. But nothing will actually change until you embrace suffering and turn it into growth. In fact, the whole point of therapy is to get to that point. If you've got a therapist that's just there to listen to you whine, you found the wrong therapist. The eventual goal is to get you to a point of growth and change. You see, the fact of the matter is meaning can only be found in the lowest parts of your human experience. In the lowest points, in the changes, in the transitions. You see, on average, right, I told you before, you will change and transition every 1.5 years to 3 years. And every 5 years, you will go through a major transition and change, and usually it's an unwelcome one. A bad setback, the loss of a job, a health diagnosis problem, a difficulty in your family. Nobody ever says, I figured out who I am and the meaning of my life through that holiday in Bali or first-class flight to Europe. No one. Nobody ever says, I figured out the meaning of my life through everything being very smooth sailing in school and at work and in relationships. No, you always hear people say, I figured out who I am through my dad passing away. I figured out who I am when I almost lost my business, when I almost lost a friend, when I got really sick. Are you here with me? Do you know, right, the biggest, again, out of all the reasons for adults under 35 having increasing anxiety and depression is actually not being able to understand the meaning of life? That's what they found in the recent research. It's the biggest contributor to anxiety and depression. Because we built we built a world and a market and a society around the avoidance of suffering. We built habits that condition us for superficial pleasure and to avoid pain. Most of us here can hardly be alone with our thoughts for 30 seconds before we whip out our phone and band-aid our negativity by scrolling on social media. Listen, not suffering is actually a curse because meaning comes from suffering. People who have never suffered or had to experience difficulty or change, they are actually the least resilient people in life. They are what Jesus describes as people who build their house on sand. Never had to change, never had to adapt, never had to learn to forgive, never had to learn to struggle it out, never had to cry, never had to grieve. Are you hearing me? That's why he says it's so hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God and to heaven. Easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than to help a rich man get there. But possible, right? Okay? So you got to understand that it's almost like a curse if you don't learn to embrace suffering. Because eventually it's not if, it is when. Eventually challenges will come and the house will fall. People who spend their lives running from pain rather than working through it never grow strength. You see, listen, suffering is a part of finding meaning so you can find happiness. So you can only find meaning if you embrace it and turn it into growth. Embrace it and turn it into growth. Now, I don't know what some of you might be going through this coming year, but I do know the only way is through. So face your fear, manage your anxiety, learn to lower your negative affect, because if you don't, you are going to keep feeling worse, not better. Secondly, listen, as a rule of life, learn to be comfortable with uncertainty. When things aren't black and white, when things are uncomfortable and unknowable, you don't know what you're going to do with your life, it's okay, that's normal. It's good. You know, right, Harvard did some studies, and it's very funny. I don't know, Harvard has a lot of electrocution studies, okay? So there was one Harvard study that was done quite recently where they found people were more stressed when they thought they had a 50% chance of being shocked and electrocuted than when they were told that as they participate in this study, you will 100% get shocked. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Human beings would rather be certain of something bad happening to us than not knowing. Yes. That is how predisposed towards negative affect most of us are. Yes. And I suppose that's why, right, God also had to tell us so many times in the Bible, right, even when he talks about prayer, right, he has to tell us, be still and be silent. Yes. Be quiet. Are you hearing me? Yeah. So there was another study at Harvard, where they made people sit in a room for 15 minutes with instructions to do absolutely nothing. And there was nothing in the room to do except a button in front of them that they could push that would give themselves a painful electric shock. So listen to me, right? The choice in this experiment was to sit there and be bored or get an electric shock and deliver it yourself. And guess what? A majority of the participants gave themselves shocks instead of having to sit there and think about nothing. Okay? So why is that so? Listen, we have something in our brain called a default network. Okay? A default mode network that makes us, it's the part of the brain that makes us think about things that are often uncomfortable. Now, I'm not talking about negative emotions like what we were talking about earlier. I'm talking about the uncomfortable big questions like, what is the meaning of life? What is my existence all about? Why was I born on this earth? Okay? So what happens in the human brain, very interesting, right? That's why I say it's inbuilt, right? You don't believe in God or faith, it's still inbuilt in your brain, okay? The human brain will automatically go into uncomfortable, existential questions when we are quiet and doing nothing. And it turns out this is actually not bad, it's incredibly good and very important for human beings. You see, one of the reasons they found that we have such an explosion of depression and anxiety in our generation is because people are struggling to process the meaning of their lives much more than previous generations. In fact, the data shows that our brains are getting less apt at activating the default mode network because most of the time our generation is not even looking. Why? Because we're never bored. This is going to be another happiness sermon, 1 or 2 sermons down the road, okay? Because we are never bored. We are never not stimulated. We have an avoidance tool that is with us constantly. Right? It is there to switch off our default mode network and discomfort. Because we never sit still long enough to get to the end of the question. We don't even get to the question. Some of us don't get to the end of the question of meaning. We never suffer long enough and look into the darkness of our lives long enough to find out what joy is all about. So another big gift you can give yourself in 2026 is to slow down and to make room for yourself to suffer. To make silence one of the habits of your life that brings you towards happiness. Stop chasing stuff. Stop looking at stuff long enough so that you can moderate your affect. You can take back control of your positive emotions. So that you can take back control of your negative emotions and discover meaning. Okay? So one thing you can do is to sit, especially today, right? Best way to do change is in a group. Best way to do the change is immediate. Right? Today, clarify again your why. You can do this over and over again. Do this as many times as you like. Okay? Clarify your why. Instead of scrolling your Instagram, keep re-scrolling your why. What are my values? Why do you do what you do? Why do you not like the work that you are doing? What about it do you like and what about it do you not like? You see, that's the other thing, right? People do, they jump so fast into avoiding negative things like they go, I hate work, and then they just immediately jump and go to another job, and then they find they hate it too. Because they never actually figure out why. What is violating my values that are making me unhappy in this situation? Can I change it? Is there something that actually is making me happy? And what do I need to evaluate before I decide on the next step? So listen, ask yourself, what are your values? Why do you do what you do? What makes you frustrated, upset? What makes you unhappy? You know, sometimes the best way to figure out what makes you happy is to figure out what's making you unhappy. What do you like? What do you dislike? It all points you to your reason, your values, your meaning, the things that fuel you. So listen, if you haven't done this, do a values test. We got a set of cards here in church. There's an online one that we have for you to do as well. You know, ask yourself, once you've distilled it out, ask yourself, am I incorporating these values into my goals and my choices? Because if you do the what of life, all your goals and all your roles and all your jobs, you know, if you do it without clarity on why you are doing it, you are going to get to a destination and then feel empty and wonder why. Okay? You know, deliberately ask yourself which values that you've identified do you need to realign with in 2026? What values have you lost sight of? Which values do you need to adjust into your goals so that you make those goals have more reason and meaning and purpose? Right? You know, and then how other things you can do, how can I reduce the things that are distracting me from my values? Right? So, you know, I myself, right, after I'm done with my busy period in January, because I've noticed something in my life, right, I've been sitting down to evaluate, you know, the same time that I'm very busy at work is also the same time I'm the most distracted. Have you noticed that? Right? You know, I may not be, say, paying attention to the Netflix show that I'm watching, but I'm leaving it running in the background. Because why? Coming down from the dopamine. Working too hard is dopamine. Are you here with me? You know, and you work too hard, and after that, you come home and you can't wind down from work. So you got two choices, and for me, I go, okay, if I drink, I cannot, the next day, I cannot work. So then what do? You turn on the Netflix. And if you're not paying attention, you just leave it on. Right? To keep the dopamine up. So what can you do to reduce those distractions? So when I'm done, you know, with my busy period in January, I'm planning to go on a dopamine fast. My Netflix subscription is coming to an end at the end of the month. I'm going to limit my social media use. And this year, as I'm doing Bible reading, one of my goals is to work towards using only my physical Bible to read. Instead of my handphone to read. Okay? So that I can stay focused on the important questions. So that I can lower my addiction to dopamine and hear God. You know, so that I can keep being happier by living my life in a more aware and aligned way. You see, I find for most people, we seldom slow down enough to make good goals. That is why there's this whole concept, right, in business today. You know, how can we gamify our app? Can you imagine how dangerous that concept actually is? It can be good and it can be really bad in the long run. Because basically what they're doing is trying to get people addicted in small ways to work. Are you following what I'm saying? You see, we don't slow down sometimes, right? We're always like, achieve, achieve, achieve. We never slow down to ask, is this what we really should be achieving? Is this really what's good for us and will bring us happiness? Okay? So listen, get to the end of your 2026 and the end of your life, having built your life on solid ground. Ground that makes you happier and more resilient, not less. Finally, last one for you today. Is that okay? Number 3, happiness is love. I know, don't sound scientific, right? But can you believe it? It is. And also courtesy of Harvard scientists. Okay? So, real happiness and blessedness in life is how well we do love. Tell your friends, say love. And don't be quick, come on, linger a little bit. I don't know why Singaporeans have this problem. Cannot look at people in the eye when we talk to each other. Look at each other in the eye and say love. Are you here? You just feel a little bit better in your brain? Did it tingle a little bit? Okay, so listen, if you were to, again, open your Bible and turn and look at the entire Sermon on the Mount, you will see that between the Beatitudes, the preamble, and the epilogue about this house built on solid ground, the entire in between 3 chapters is all about navigating life, relationships, and people, and God. Yes. In fact, the first part of what comes after the Beatitudes is what I like to call the law of love, the whole section on the law of love, where Jesus redefines what it means to love other people. So listen, do yourself a favor today and go and read these 3 chapters. Very short. It'll take you like 10 minutes. But if you can stand it, maybe sit in it for 15 minutes. Is that okay? You know, and ask yourself, hey, am I salt and light to the people around me? Or am I bringing darkness and conflict? Am I loving and including and forgiving, or am I judgmental and critical? Am I chasing after, worrying after superficial things like everybody else, or am I at peace? You know, am I okay with discomfort? Am I prioritizing values over things, people over profit? Am I connected to a bigger picture and a higher purpose? Do I have some kind of faith and vision that I believe in? A philosophy that connects me to something higher than just myself and my own selfish reasons? You see, for all the talk people have in this world about life and freedom, you know, and all the things they post on Instagram, you know, can I tell you, there is superficial pleasure and then there's deeper satisfaction. And it's different. There is being, you know, coupled together and having friends and companions for the sake of just fun and not being lonely, and then there is belonging and connection, and that's different. There is using people and things to fill a hole in your life, and then there is genuine receiving and giving of love. Are you following me here today? You see, what they found in Harvard after 95 years, 85 or 95, let me see, 85 years of data collection, okay, is they found that there are 4 big things that bring us happiness in life. Okay? And it all has to do with our relationship with love. Okay? In fact, Arthur Brooks, one of the great gurus about all this, right, and who's a professor, he says, you know, the big 4 is like the difference between living into your animal nature, your superficial animal nature, and your higher, more evolved human self. Okay, so 85 years of data, are you with me? 85, okay? 85 years, not one study, 85 years of data. Okay? They found that happiness is love. And not so much how to get love, but how we interact with and give love in 4 areas that determines our happiness. The first is faith. Okay? Or let's add philosophy over here. Okay? Faith that we are connected to some higher goodness and reason out there in the universe. Okay? So I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. So I work out my faith through my relationship with God. Okay? But scientifically, I can't say to all of you here that my Christianity is the only way for you to figure this out. Okay? Because they also found that, hey, it's just the issue of, are you connected to some sort of higher being or higher philosophy about the universe, that there is a good thing out there, there is a just thing out there to strive towards. Okay? So there must be some high philosophy or worldview that you are connected to that fuels your life and soul. Now, not some loosey-goosey, so just because you go to church, okay, that doesn't mean your religion is not superficial. Okay? Notice is that faith, not religion, okay? Are you following me? So they found that people who fall into this category need to have some sort of very rooted spirituality that's translated into the way that they think and live and feel connected relationally to life and meaning and the universe. And when they have that, this is one factor that increases happiness. Okay, now the second factor is kin. Okay, now kin can refer to tribe, to family, to community, your inner circle. Maybe it's the easiest way to communicate this to you, okay? Now, does this mean that those of us who come from dysfunctional family, now we are one down the rung? No, listen. This applies to the family that you choose, which is sometimes but not limited to the family that you are born into. You know, that's why I love it, right? Christianity has it built in, right? That water is thicker than blood. Are you following me? Okay? So it doesn't matter if you came from a messed up background. You can find a tribe. The issue is, do you have an inner circle around you that supports you, that roots you, that you feel connected to, belonging with, that you feel safe with? Okay? In fact, most studies will show, right, that your inner circle, your kin, cannot just be limited to your tiny nuclear family. In fact, some studies point out, right, this idea of the nuclear family only started to exist 200 years ago. 200 years. Before that, people were all in tribes and villages. To the point that it almost didn't matter whether you like your husband or didn't like your husband, whether you love your wife or didn't love your wife. Because you got 9 other people, 20 other people that you are connected to. Are you following me? So what's my point? I'm just saying this to stretch your imagination. Is that okay? We live in the society that we live in the generation that we live in. But listen, the point is, do you have kin? Do you feel safe with the people that is your inner circle? Do you trust them? Even when they are imperfect, does your respect of them and your love for them and your awe of them still outweigh the bad? Because there will be bad. Because that's the other thing they found, right? Other studies, right? Even relationships are not constant. They don't guarantee constant happiness, because some days you feel connected, some days you don't. Some days you're seeing each other, some days you want to kill each other at home. Right? Okay, so even relationships are not an automatic point of kin. Right? But if you know how to do love well, to forgive, to give grace, to accept, to be considerate, to be kind. Are you here with me? Yes. To not let things get stale and to take people for granted. Are you here with me? Yes. Then listen, you will feel connected to meaning and purpose. Yes. Okay, so if you haven't already listened, find and choose your kin. Yes. You may not be able to choose your starting point or even where you are right now, but you can certainly choose your next point and your next relationship. Choose and select your inner circle. Number 3, friends. So this is one level out. Are you hearing me? Yes. But listen, very specific, real friends, not fake friends. Yes. Acquaintances don't count. Followers on your Facebook doesn't count. Colleagues that you guys are just using each other does not count. Okay? We're talking about friends who make you feel lighter and better. Friends who contribute and give to one another. Who may not be in each other's life constantly, but they look out for each other. Okay? So they found happier people have friends. Okay? So go to work, go to school, and create connection. You know, don't complain nobody asked you out. Go and take initiative to ask people out. Ask them how they're doing. You know, if you're someone, your value is team, like me, my value is team, then if you cannot find team at work, create team. Ask them out for lunch. We got so many things coming out. We're going to run you every week, right? Ask them out. 13th is Make Your Dreams Come True Day. Why don't you go out to a friend and say, hey, today is Make Your Dreams Come True Day. What's your dream? I don't know that about you. I know this and this and this about you, but what are your dreams? What are you passionate about? Is this work your dream? What about work makes you happy? Go start a conversation. Make some real friends. Okay? Don't be someone that goes through life, right, just collecting friends by default. Be intentional. Because friends can either lift you up or they can really sink you down. Be intentional. And then when you get a friend, listen, be intentional. We all come together for certain reasons, right? Sometimes we come together on common complaint. But if you're not careful, then the relationship is just all about complaint. Sometimes you come together in a relationship because of common vision. But even that's not enough, because what if the vision changes? Are you hearing me? We need different connection points with our friends. Sometimes it's good to take stock and ask ourselves, right, have we created a healthy pattern in our friendship? You know? Sometimes people come together because of fun. And then they have fun, and then they go home empty. Okay? So actually all these things are important. Having common vision is important. Having common complaint sometimes is important too. People love to come together over an enemy. Right? But it cannot be all there is to it. You know, but even if you have vision, listen, even every relationship needs fun. Are you following me? Okay? But more importantly, every relationship needs trust. Are you friends with people that you can trust? Are you someone that knows how to be trusted and knows how to give trust? Because that's another layer of difficulty and complication, you know what I mean? Sometimes we can be surrounded by people we can trust, but we are not good at trusting. You know, it's like us and God sometimes, right? God is 100% trustworthy, but we have a problem always with trusting God. Right? Because we can't see what God sees. We can't understand what God is thinking. And same thing with people. There's always things you can see and things you can't know, for sure. Right? But do we have control over it, or are we constantly anxious? Overthinking it? Doubting? Are you here with me? You know, like it or not, there's a part of life that really is uncertain. And there's a part of life that you have to step out in faith. That you have to trust that everything is going to be okay. In fact, if you don't have faith, it's very hard to be happy. Because you always think something bad is coming around the corner. Are you here with me? So build trust, build generosity, build consideration, build forgiveness, build grace into your relationships. And finally, last of the big four, work. I know I sound like, okay. But listen, very specific definition of work, yeah? Working for humanity and for some greater good. Okay, now there are two components to work. So, interesting thing about work, right? There are actually two components. One is earn success and one is service to others. So listen, all your friends that hate to work, supposedly, and spend all their time doing nothing and just having fun, the ones who like to declare, I'll be happiest when I retire, nonsense. The data doesn't bear out. Also, listen, don't listen to Christians who say one day we will all die and go to heaven where there will be zero work. You know what the Bible says or not in the first story of the Bible? God made human beings and put us in this paradise and garden to what? To work. To tend to creation, to take responsibility for each other and responsibility for the earth and for all the creatures. Humans have an innate need to work, to earn success. In fact, what they found is that people who don't have to work to earn their success, they are usually actually deeply unhappy. Because intrinsically, unless they are a psychopath, which means their brain is not the usual, okay? Right? Most people, even narcissists, will feel deep down inside that they are undeserving of their blessings if they didn't earn it. Even narcissists who are grandiose and bravado, you know, they're like, I earn everything. You know, people like Donald Trump, right? They're actually just lying to themselves. Because deep down inside, they don't feel secure that they've earned it. Deep down inside, they're covering up some really deep shame, and they're tired of losing the respect or recognition that they have. Are you following? It's why they lash out. You know, it's crazy, you know, to have a president in the highest office, in one of the highest offices in the world, who cannot handle a tweet. Are you here with me? I feel very, very terrible that we have politicians that all they do is stare at their Instagram and their Twitter. Are you following me? So listen, you see, human beings, right, we need to feel like we overcome something. Overcome something to attain something. Like we had to suffer and struggle to earn our story and our meaning. But listen, it's also not complete without the second component. So it's not just overcoming, it needs to come with service to others. That what we are doing at work has some higher purpose. More than standing on stage and getting a 20-year-old watch and getting applauded for. More than seeing a pay increment. That's just dopamine. Okay? You know, for all the youth here, it's more than talking about yourself and looking for people to like your post. Those are all just superficial stuff. Lasting meaning must have impact on someone else's life. So work has to come with service to others. Things like building a better life for your family. Being able to be more generous towards other people. Helping members in your team be coached and succeed, to grow and do well. Those are the kinds of work that create meaning and happiness. So listen, as we wrap up today, a very important thing to ask yourself is, how are you doing with your big four? Is the big four even on your radar? Are you actively writing your vision and goals with these things in mind? Because again, for those of us under 35, guess what? It's getting harder and harder for you to consciously access this part of yourself. Okay? Because you're just not using those pathways, as much as previous generations. You see, I remember a time where I didn't have a handphone and things were like pager. Yes, now you don't even know what a pager is. I remember a time where you had to memorize your best friend's phone numbers to go to the public phone to talk to them. And then you had to talk to them, you only got like 20 cents worth of time. Are you following me? I remember a time where there was no handphone, so we had to sit and talk. We had to sit and think about life. When we do quiet time, don't even have a phone to take down notes. You have to sit there, stare at the page. And then we will sit there and, and then we will talk in church, right? We must learn how to be still and be quiet. And we'll say, oh my God, how long more? And we open our eyes, wow, the digit has only moved one time, right? But we will sit there and sit there and sit there until we figure out what our purpose was. Until we could hear God, or you want to call it the universe, speaking to us. Right? So, how are you doing with your big four? Because listen, can I tell you this? Changing the way you do life this year and set your goals is going to be much harder than you think it's going to be. Okay, so I want to end with a story, and it's a story that's from Buddhism, about a monk who goes on a journey. Okay? And where he wants to go, right, he has no choice but to cross this raging river. And so around him are some trees, and so he looks at this river and says, if I want to get to where I'm going, I need to get across this river. So he cuts down the trees, he builds himself a raft, and he starts rowing as hard as he can against the current, and finally, after a long time, he gets to the other side and can continue on his journey. But after he gets to the other side, the monk thinks to himself, right, man, what a great raft this is that I built for myself. It was so helpful in helping me to traverse that difficulty. So he decides, I'm going to pack up this raft and take it with me because I'm sure it's going to be helpful in getting me to my destination at some point. So he ties it up with ropes, he strings it to on his back, and he continues walking on his journey. But eventually on the journey, he comes to a very dense forest. And so he goes, man, okay, now I have to get through this forest, but no choice. And so he goes into the forest, and that's when he starts to realize it's really hard to carry this raft through this forest. Because the further he goes in, the denser the trees become. This raft is big and bulky, so it keeps catching the trees and making it incredibly hard for him to traverse. He keeps falling down, but the monk refuses to give up. He goes, this raft got me across that raging river. I worked so hard to chop down the trees and craft this raft. I used this raft and paddled so hard for so long to get me to the other side of the river. So he keeps trying and keeps walking with this raft on his back, until he eventually reaches a point where he's too exhausted to continue. And that's when suddenly he realizes maybe it's time to put down the raft. So listen, right, we all here have dreams for our lives. I don't think any of us woke up when we were young and said, we want to be unhappy. I don't think any of us woke up when we were 7, 8 years old and thought, I'm going to be the richest, most lonely person in the world. Are you hearing me? I don't think we woke up and said to ourselves, we want to be a bad person and have power over people and abuse people. But somewhere along the line, whatever the world taught us, whatever life taught us, whatever we went through, maybe we got bullied at school, maybe we never figured out our meaning, identity, and purpose, we started to think that's the only way to get where we need to go. Right? So we bully people to feel good about ourselves. We dress ourselves up with all kinds of things, go into debt because, it makes us look good on Instagram. People like us. And people look at us and people envy us and we feel good. Right? We get into relationship and companionship. Everyone around us looks at us, looks like we're having fun. Wow, we're going to this concert and that concert and doing all this. And, we're posting about ourselves on Instagram. People are envying us, but deep down inside, empty. Okay? So listen, we never woke up, one morning when we were young and said, this is the life that we want. But for some reason, life conditioned us that way. Our habits condition us that way. And to some degree, they are good, right? Because sometimes, because you were scared to fail, you worked hard at school. Sometimes because you were scared to look bad at work, you put in extra effort and you got ahead. Right? You see, we all want to achieve and to succeed and be happy, but sometimes the things and the patterns that got us here will not be the things that can get us there. Sure, maybe dopamine got you this far. Maybe your anxiety made you struggle to achieve. Maybe that reward or that holiday motivated you. But maybe it's only meant to get you this far. It's meant to be an intermediary to move you forward. But listen, if you're looking to be happier in life, to do life and achieve dreams, and have good foundations and be resilient no matter what comes your way, then listen, sometimes you got to put down the raft that got you here. You got to let go of the patterns and behaviors that no longer serve you. And so that is what I want to say to you in 2026, right? Because this is how I preach so many messages on goal setting. I have a youth church. We teach people the basics of how to goal set, how to achieve dreams. I've done all that. And today, it's probably one of the hardest first kind of services I have to preach, because now I'm telling you all those things are not enough. Are you hearing me? You got to change the old patterns that no longer serve you so you can go forward and live the life that Jesus has for you.